Hey guys, this is Roxum087. I just want to make a quick video about the new UAC valve knocker or the firing pin for the Tokyo Marine Glock 17. And people say that the Tokyo Marine Glock 17 and Glock 18 valve knocker are the same. Personally, I see a small difference, but apparently people don't differentiate it. I differentiate it, but I'm just letting you know that people don't differentiate it normally. Actually, I'm using the wrong term for that. But anyways, just know that UAC made a steel valve knocker to complement their steel hammer and their steel sear. So they basically make a whole entire hammer set replacement for you now, and also includes, this little guy. So this, as of right now, the way I see it, there is a very, very tiny bit of machine marks, but not too many. It actually looks really nice. The coating looks a lot more different compared to what I normally see. So I just want to point out something right now, that when you look at this here really, really close, can you see that that it's sort of messy very near the opening of the, you see right there? It's a little bit rough and a little bit unclean in the area near the valve knocker disconnector area, right over there. So, yeah, we're just gonna see how this goes. So as of right now, the only Glock that I have handy that's actually using a UAC hammer is my S3F Glock. You can tell because the breaking point is very far forward. I'm also using the UAC trigger in this Glock. So I just want to quickly show you guys something. That the Glock does fire. And by the way, this is one of the Pro-Win magazines. I didn't modify or anything, but look what happens. Did you hear that? So sometimes it pushes the valve a little bit, it seems. So we saw that the gun works. Now let's work on it. It's a little dirty, but so that's my valve knocker. That's the stock Tokyo Marine valve knocker right now. As you guys can see, it is a little bit, worn, but not too much, not super worn. So just to let you guys know, the reason why you replace your firing pin with a steel firing pin is because over time, when you use these casted firing pins, over time they deform. Normally, it takes you quite a long time before you to deform it, is because generally speaking, die cast metal, especially metal that is die casted properly, they are normally harder than aluminum, and they normally last long enough for you to strike cast metal onto steel. But you cannot grind them against each other. That's a different story. But normally when it comes to striking, they tend to retain their shape, generally speaking. Of course, this depends on the type of the blend that you use to make these kinds of metals. It really depends, but for most of the time, because we're dealing with Tokyo Marine here, their die-cast metal tends to be okay. It's not really good, but it's okay. It's better than most. It's better than China, for sure. So this is the stock Tokyo Marine valve knocker. You can see right there. Just going to replace it now. So you didn't have to do what I just did now, just explode everything. You don't have to do that, but I did it anyways. So you can see how I assemble everything. You can see that I bent my hammer spring. Okay, so let's see if it does that thing where it vents. Oh. Hey, it's not doing that venting thing. Oh, it made a pop sound. Can you hear that? There's a pop sound. But it's a lot less than this. I'm wondering why then. So now that I have seen the effects. Okay. The valve knocker and the hammer pivots very well. So that's good. Stainless screw. Now, when I say pivot, there's a few things that you need to understand as to why I'm making this video in such a weird way and why I'm disassembling this twice. It's because when you look at hammer sets and valve knockers, the thing that sometimes that's a little bit more important to look at, especially if you're pairing a valve knocker and a hammer that's of the same company, you have to make sure that they can actually move together. If they cannot move together, that causes a lot of problems. So what I mean is this. What you simply do is take your pin like this with your valve knocker, and what you do is that you just rotate it. You just rotate it like this. They should be able to rotate freely in and out as you turn it like this. You should be able to do it really, really easily and freely. And the reason why you have to look out for this is because sometimes hammers, the reason why some Glocks may not function very well is because if you use a certain type of aftermarket hammer and a certain type of valve knocker, they can get stuck like this. They will hold each other like this. So if you move the hammer, the valve knocker will move with it like that. And then therefore when you fire a gun, sometimes the valve knocker is not hitting this perfectly, so it sort of light strikes. If you watch my light striking video, I showed you guys where if you have a firing pin that strikes it directly, it opens the valve. But sometimes, if the hammer pivots it up like that, it strikes the top part of the flowing valve, causing a light strike. That's the reason why I'm looking at the hammer set this way. Let me give you a good example. The AIP hammer set sometimes does that. Not all the time, but sometimes. It's because they manufacture the wing and these areas that rotate that press the valve knocker. They machine that a little bit too, not enough of it. So there's clearly. So when you have the hammer up, I don't know if you guys can see this. So with the hammer pressed as far forward as I can hold it, there is a little bit of play. Just a very tiny bit. So that means that they made this correctly, and they made it pretty good. As far as I can tell, this appears to be a functional and working hammer set. Because I'm actually testing this by hand, and I tested it just now, and it appears to be working. So that's the contact with the wing. The wing of the valve knocker is these two areas. That's one side of the wing, and that's the other. Sorry, the camera's not very good at this. These are the wings. Because the structure of the hammer is what pushes against these wings to apply leverage, and that's what pushes it forward. So far, it appears to be working pretty well. So that's pretty much the end of the video. Let's just primarily show you that if you wish to get a steel valve knocker, this works well with the steel UAC hammer set. I personally really like the UAC hammer set, is because I've bought it many times and has worked every single time. I like it, personally. Heck, I'll even go so far as to say it's the best hammer set. Because honestly, I quite like the fact. So on the UAC hammer, you see this area over here. Let me rotate that better. You see that area right over here? This rear part? That's a very large ledge to contact the hammer. And I really like that ledge. That ledge is super large, so that means it's gonna lock your hammer very reliably. I rather have reliability than anything else. So that's the reason why I like that hammer set so much. It's because it works. It has so far worked in every single Glock that I've put it in. It has pretty much never given me problems. The only time it has ever given me problems is if you use sometimes if you use trigger bars that are weird, like the garter trigger bar. The garter trigger bar is weird. It tends to not work very well on that. Did I just install the wrong valve knocker? No. Because the garter trigger bar does not work well with large sears. It only works well with small sear nubs. If you don't know what that means, basically, this is classified as a large sear nub. Large sear nubs are what Tokyo Murray uses. WE uses a sear nub that's almost half the size of this. That's and the garter trigger bars were clearly meant for the WEs, more so than the Tokyo Murrays. I bet you they designed it based off what they see on the WE. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm almost certain. Now, if you're using a Tokyo Murray Glock 22 or a Tokyo Murray Glock 34, your situation changes. It's because the trigger bar on the Tokyo Murray Glock 22 and 34 are different. But if you're replacing your hammer set, you're probably replacing your trigger bar as well, so you probably don't have to worry about it, generally speaking. And as you see, my Glock is using stainless screws. It's because I always strip these stock screws. There's also more threads in my stainless screws. These are M2 by 6 screws. And you can tell I'm also using a stainless screw for the front. So that's it for the video. So the valve knocker works. So far, no detectable problems, as I would expect. I mean, UAC products don't tend to have too much problems. Their blow-by housing unit wasn't so good though. Oh, not enough gas. Anyways, so all works, all perfectly fine. That's it for the video, guys.